What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to Mana Rant episode 25, a historic podcast. We specialize in everything historic with a little splash of Commander as well. We are the Mana Dorks, and in the realm of Kaldheim, I'm definitely a big, fat, giant berserker. My name is Michael Paulo. And in the world of Kaldheim, he is definitely has his bee farm. He's sprinkling fairy dust on his mead, making it sound good. But in the real world, his name is Hoshi. Say what up, Hosh.
Hey, what's going on? I love my mead.
Yes, sir. And as you can notice, we don't have Drunken here with us today. So, fun fact. So he spent way too much money on secret layers. I know it's an addiction for him, and his wife got so mad. So she did a cosplay, right? And she has to dress him up as Garrick, the Planeswalker, and he has to sell himself on the streets in Seattle to, try to make some money back because his house is flooding. It's just not looking good for him.
It's bad. And man, I mean, if you've seen how big his head is too, they had to special make that Garruk helmet for his head. It's just like a giant Garruk bobblehead out there on the street shaking that ass. It's it's quite a sight.
I mean, I think with his body type, it would have been better for him to do Oko, but for some reason he was like, no, I can do fucking Garruk, and it's
yeah, he's got the leather.
Not a thick boy.
The leather straps across his chest. It's quite a sight. But anyway, if you are in the Seattle area and you have $5, there's a Garruk out there who really needs it. So
yeah,
go find him,
and he'll do almost anything. CJ's,
he'll do anything. Yeah. If you don't know what that is, you can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly. Nice reference. Yeah, we're both thinking on the same page on that one. So, yeah, so we are the Mana Dorks, and this is the Mana Rant, a Mana Dorks podcast. And just like every single game of Magic, we follow the actual phases of Magic. So we have our Untap, Upkeep, Draw, Main Phase, Combat, Main Phase 2, End Step, Cleanup, and our Discard. And just like when you start every game of Magic, we start with our Untap step. And that's where we untap a drink of our choice. Talk about what we're drinking tonight. So let's untap her up, boy.
Oh, yeah. Let's do this. Right, so I'm not quite untapping. I'm more expressing.
Yeah, you're usually doing some Mr. Wizard shit over there. So I'll untap, and what I'm drinking is it's called Rainbow Sherbet. So commonly on this show, I usually drink IPAs, but my second favorite, just like how Drunken likes stouts and porters, I love sour ales and IPAs. Too. And this is a sour ale that's sherbet flavor, so definitely very 80s. It's local to Arizona, so super stoked to try this. I hope it tastes really delicious. So, Hoshi, what are you drinking tonight?
Nice, dude. I love sours, man. They are they're great. I love how much more popular they've become too. There's a lot down here too in Florida. I found a lot of them are too sweet recently, but So
I prefer more tart for sure.
Yeah, me too. So for me, this is me and my girlfriend's main thing that we drink. It's a old fashioned, a rye old fashioned. So I'm drinking Basil Hayden rye right here, which is a very smooth type of rye whiskey. It's a little smoother than I usually care for, but what we got in here as well is some chili smoked bitters in there that gives it a really that and a little bit of cherry bitters as well in there, and man, it's great. This is delicious.
Yeah, I normally don't like your gasoline, but I do like old fashions. They are mighty tasty, and that those chili bitters, that sounds good. So.
Dude, it's really good.
Well, cheers. Let's have a good episode, man.
Cheers.
Ooh, man, baby boy, that is sour. I dig it.
Oh, good. That's good.
All right, so always followed by our Untap step is our Upkeep, and that is our Reddit rant, and that's where Hoshi takes it over, scours the internet, so I'm going to turn it over to him. He's going to tell us what we're going to be ranting about this week.
All right. So, Reddit Rant is where I scour the internet for lunatics, basically, which isn't too hard because the internet is pretty full of them. But, I mean, Magic is a game of, skill and frustration. It's how I feel it is. And some people just scream their frustration into the internet, and I try and find those people every week. Reddit's a hard place to find them on because people downvote the ever-loving shit out of them. But on Facebook, they're not downvoted until so many people rag on them that they delete their post. So this is one guy who hasn't deleted his post yet, because I had a great one about Johnny avatars, but it's gone now, so I can't find it. But
that one was good.
yeah, that one was great. So this one, it'll be linked in the episode description as well, is Tommy. So Tommy is saying standard is for people who have money to burn. They know that certain cards will get the axe, and they still insist on building decks that will plummet in prices. I don't know why he pluraled that. Begs to differ. Said beg to differ? Then bite me. Laughing my fucking ass off. Okay. That's a weird thing to do after telling people to fight you, basically. All right. So,
yeah.
It's a mix of emotions here, Tommy Bag. All right. So then he continues on. Cracking packs can be counted as an addiction, just like gambling, because you basically are. All the packs have randomized cards in it, and you want to get the money card that way instead of buying the actual card. So that's gambling. First of all, Tommy, thanks for telling us how Magic cards work. None of us have cracked a pack ever before and been like, what? This isn't a standardized, I thought I was going to get pack.
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought you did all mythics. I had no idea.
Yeah, you didn't know? No, it's random every time, and you don't get the best one in every one. You don't get the money card. So Tommy is mad at the whole premise of Magic, apparently. And then lastly, he goes, and last but not least, Wizards of the Coast, please print less sets. If they continue to do so, the market will be oversaturated with MTG products, which causes the prices of box and sets to total to plummet. Stop it, guys. Limit it to a few a year. 2020 was a huge amount of products, and I feel so overwhelmed. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, man.
Oh, Tommy. Oh, man.
Yikes.
Yeah, so
I love the comments on this one. Like the first one is like, don't buy them. Problem solved.
Yeah, pretty much. Overwhelmness gone, right?
Or the second one, don't invest in it.
Yeah. That's by far the best takeaway from this, right? Is Magic is not the stock market. You shouldn't be like putting your paychecks into it, being like, I'm gonna get some good returns here. I mean, you can. There are people that do it, but they're like, you gotta be on top of it, right? It's just like the stock market. You gotta be watching card prices and like having charts and predictions and stuff, and like. And then Wizards can just print whatever and like totally throw your money away. It's crazy. I don't think it's it's safe investment. It's a game. You should be buying this stuff to enjoy the game. And
first and foremost, absolutely.
The thing that I think is really funny is the other parts of the comments where everyone's like, oh no, if prices plummet, then everyone will be able to afford the cards. Oh darn, like what a terrible thing. People aren't paying like $80 for Uru or whatever.
Yeah.
What a travesty that people can afford to play the ridiculous game that is Magic. Like. So. I
mean, as a business too, like I don't even understand where he's coming from, because saying like oversaturated with MTG products. There's a lot of formats to play.
Oh yeah.
Magic knows what their core is. So cool, buddy, you like standard, okay? A lot of people don't. They like playing vintage, legacy, so that's why we have like ultimate masters. They like playing modern. That's why we have modern masters. They like playing, I don't know, like you, me, and Drunken EDH. That's why they have like, Commander Legends,
Yeah.
It's not oversaturating one particular format. It's trying to cater to the entire community, right? So that way everyone has a chance to have new cards. And WotC should definitely keep doing that.
Well, Wizards loves the secondary market too, because if there's a card that's expensive on there and they just wait till the price goes up, they reprint it and boom, like they reap the benefits of that, right? That's like all these remastered sets and everything they do. They make a killing off of those. The crazy thing is like there's zero research. There's no R&D into that. It's cards that they already made a long time ago. They're literally just reprinting them, and then they'll pay an artist to like make like maybe some new art for it, and then they get like way more money for it. It's amazing. So
it's literally almost zero risk, high reward, right? Because it's cardboard. I mean, it costs them pennies, right, to make.
Oh yeah.
But if people like it, they buy it. And whoa, whoopsie,
that's
there's
how
your
the
money.
world works. Yeah, that's how the world works.
I mean, that's how they found out Commander was so popular, right? Because it's like, well, people are not buying Standard. They're buying Commander precons. Maybe we should focus on that, you know?
They're like, we'll ruin that next.
Yeah, no, this is hilarious. And then from a stock standpoint, obviously, like if you're trying to get into this for investing, you really need to pay attention to how stocks work in Magic specifically. Might be a little bit easier to do in like Pokemon or something like that because YouTubers are super popular and like, Charizard is now crazy expensive. It already was. But this you have to like literally predict if a card will be crazy in the future, right? Like a card I can think of is like Tarmogoyf, which used to be like a quarter or so when it was standard legal. And it's obviously not as expensive as it used to be, like what, $100 something, $200 something, but yeah, that's quite an investment you have to do. I mean, usually when cards rotate out of standard, they drop very quickly in price. So you got to kind of like sell quickly too, right? So I don't know, not really a good thing to focus on. But yeah, silly, funny post. Hilarious.
Oh, poor Tommy. I hope you find some inner peace. So you're an absolute lunatic, and we loved your post. Thanks for the Reddit rant. Hey, and if you guys have a Reddit rant that you want to send our way, just throw it in the post, right? You guys find something crazy, let me know. I love reading these things. They make my day, seeing that someone is more frustrated than I am. So that's always nice.
Well, sounds like shit bronze players say.
Yes, exactly. Ding.
That's my favorite. That's my absolute favorite. All right, so yeah, that is our upkeep, and after our upkeep is always followed by our draw phase, and that's just what other Magic formats we've been playing this week. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what we're playing, but something Magic related. So I'm going to turn it back over to Hoshi. So what have you been doing this week in the world of Magic?
Oh, so I've done two things. So I've been playing Historic, and then I played the Friday Night Magic thing. So in Historic, I got frustrated, and I realized that I pretty much had all the cards to make the colorless deck. Well, almost all of them. I'm missing a couple of the lands, but for the most part, I was able to just make the deck, and it is disgusting. I feel like gross when I play it, and it doesn't have a downside to it really, except for hyper aggro. If you go second, you're going against a hyper aggro and you don't have a good hand, then you could die. But I mean, other than that, dude, it's just there really isn't any other deck that has like, that you struggle against. It's just you're like mana rock, Ugin, I win. Or Ulamog and I win. Once you got your planeswalkers down, it's pretty much over. Some people struggle a little bit before they just see like how bad it is. Or if you play another colorless deck that gets Karn out before you do, then you're like, oh, you stopped all my mana rocks from working. I concede. So that deck's disgusting, and I'm ashamed of myself for playing it. And then next, I've been, I mean, it's disgusting. You're just like, I cast Ugin, maybe we'll have a good game, and their head explodes, and you're like, damn it. Oh, well, I guess I just win then. Then I've been playing the Artesian, the Friday Night Magic, and so Artesian's a cool format where you only play commons and uncommons, so it's like it's a step above Pauper. And I was excited to get into that until I saw that it was standard. Artesian. So that means it's mill. It's all mill. It's everyone playing. It's either mill or it's adventures. Because rogues, there's so many rogues that are not rare or mythic or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then the stupid rune crab and Teferi's tutelage and all that stuff are not. They're all common. So yeah. So it's just like. It's like mill against mill against mill against mill. So I grew very tired of that super quick. And then I was like, jump back into historic and was like, variety.
Wizards, you're dropping the ball on the events, man. Like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Dude, they
should have predicted this. They should have made it like historic artesian or whatever, or make some other name for it. Because it's definitely going to be like Rogue Mill or Gruul Adventures. Cool.
Yikes! Yeah, they didn't even ban Lucky Clover. They let Lucky Clover in there, so that was real cool of them too. So they're killing it.
Yum.
Stop getting the interns to decide your events that you're coming up with.
They're only meant to deliver coffee, and they're supposed to mess up that, As for myself, I haven't really been playing that much in ranked. Usually before a set comes out, I do a lot of theory crafting. So as I've talked about in previous episodes, I'm really trying to work on Abzan and Esper. Abzan mid-range, Jund mid-range, and then Esper mid-range and Esper control. Esper control is something that I am truly in love with. It's my favorite type of control. And Esper mid-range with cards that we've talked about in the past. Be sure to check out previous episodes to get some information on that on theory crafting. But I think I can really make this deck a thing. So just trying to get my daily, save up the gold, make sure I can get a lot of packs. And then something else I'm interested in doing is actually playing more draft. So I noticed that when you play a lot of draft, not only do you get like a lot of good cards, but it's actually financially better. If you do well, the winnings that you can get from that can be put towards more packs and then be put towards another draft. So you can kind of get yourself in a good loop if you're getting good at draft. So that's something like I'm kind of like looking forward to. I typically don't like draft or limited or sealed and stuff like that. But I love Magic. So I do want to get into it, and I want to make sure that my money goes further in Arena. You know what I mean?
I think our Reddit ranter would scream at you that you're gambling when you do the drafts.
Oh, yeah.
You're gambling! Don't do the drafts! You're gambling!
Don't do it! Yeah, you'll be super frustrated. So, that's pretty much it, what I've been doing in Magic. I'm just super excited for the future of Kaldheim and hoping that we get to see some new archetypes that come forth. And that's going to lead us into our main phase, our main topic for tonight, and that is Kaldheim's impact on Historic. There is a lot of spoilers coming out almost daily now. And what we did was, instead of talking about every single spoiler one by one, I mean, you can watch other YouTube channels or other podcasts for that. What we're trying to do is talk about specifically what we think has a specific impact on Historic. Whether it's Fringe, like in Hoshi's case, obviously Fringe leading into competitive. Obviously, it's not Fringe jank, it's Fringe competitive, trying to make old school strategies work to the best abilities, or something like myself where I'm looking specifically for like best of 3 tier 1 strategies, or try to make something tier 1 and beat said tier 1, which is, the big boogeyman Sultai. So we're going to be talking about those cards. I'm first going to turn it over to Hoshi. He's going to, talk about his card, and we're kind of going to swing it back and forth and talk about some cards that we like from Kaldheim thus far. So, Hoshi, take it away.
All right, so I really like elves. I've always loved elves. I think they're a fun archetype, and so I've focused a little bit on elves because there's a ton in Kaldheim, and there's some really good ones. And the first one that I want to talk about was Elvish Warmaster. Okay, so this is a 2-drop. It's a colorless and a green, and it is a creature elf warrior. It is a 2/2, and whenever one or more elves enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability only triggers once each turn. Okay, so you can only get one elf token whenever you cast an elf each turn. Okay, and then it has a second ability on there where it's 5 colorless and 2 green mana, so 7 to all total. Elves you control get +2/+2 and gain Death Touch until the end of turn. So this card, yeah, I think this card is super good. One major takeaway from this is that it's not legendary. Okay, so you can have multiple of these on the field. So I think that this slots into the elf deck that is like in the current meta right now. Immediately, I think it replaces what is it called? Dwywin's Elite. Yeah, and that is a 2-drop that when it comes in, if there's an elf on the battlefield, it makes a 1/1 elf token. But that's it, right? And it has that condition where there has to be something on. This one's different where when it comes in, it doesn't make one until you cast another elf. But I don't think that's a big deal. And the major upside to this one is it keeps making elves every turn, right? So this thing can, if you have multiple on these on the field, your elves are going to be spawning like crazy. And so I think elves really, they need to do a couple things, right? To make them good. They either need to make more elves, which this guy's doing. They need to pump your other elves, which this guy is also doing with this other ability. They need to make mana, or they need to draw your cards. Okay, so this guy's fulfilling 2 of the like main things that elves really need to do. So he is a rare. So that's the only downside I really think to him. Also, his art is fucking sweet.
Yeah,
he looks
badass.
He looks rad. He looks like a Viking, Elvish, like old man. Like he's seen some battles. Yeah, dude. Elvish Warmaster's seen some shit, and then he's just like bringing other elves in behind him. They're like, dude, I want to be like that fucking badass old dude right there.
Yeah,
picking up the sword.
Completely love this card. Yeah, I think you're completely right. It definitely slots into elves. Mm-hmm. Something I'm thinking of too is like historic elves, like historic brawl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to correct myself there, but yeah, historic brawl. It's just another elf, right? Like what you need if you're going to try to be a tribal deck. What I also like about it, you know, like you already mentioned the mana sink, but what I really like about the mana sink on it is its Death Touch. A lot of elves like have like a trample effect. When you have like too many of those, it's just kind of useless, right?
It's redundant.
But giving another like mechanic onto it, Death Touch, that could be pretty relevant, especially when elves are usually faced with big blockers. So it's going to make like Gruul monsters hard to figure out how they're going to block elves, right? Usually they can confidently block elves, but this makes it very difficult. And I like that about this card for sure.
Yeah, and 2/2 is not like the biggest pump ever, especially for 7 mana. So elves don't have that big of a problem getting mana, but I mean 2/2, you have anthems and stuff, so I mean it gets out of control with elves, right? They get crazy, they ball out. So yeah, that was it. Elvish Warmaster is pretty cool. I'm really excited about this card. All right, what do you got?
Yeah,
what's your
your
next pick?
The card I picked was okay. So if you guys don't know by now, my favorite guild is Gruul. So green and red. And something that is kind of unfortunate is that Gruul has kind of taken a step back and fallen to tier 2 in historic. And so my approach to this card was trying to go back to the old style of Gruul, back when like Theros was dominant in standard, and that's Gruul monsters. It needs to have the beaters back. With such good cards like Burning Tree Emissary, you know, there's such a good core there. What it needs is really good top end, and that top end has to do something relevant. So the card that I picked is Quakebringer. It is 3 colorless, 2 red for a 5/4 giant berserker creature, and it states your opponents can't gain life. So already that is really good. And then its static text is, at the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield, or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant. And then its final ability is Foretell for 2 colorless and 2 red. So this just has everything. And rightly so, because it's a mythic card. Opponents not gaining life, that is completely relevant for control. The problem that Gruul has is being able to close out the game. They have no problem in the early to early mid dealing enough damage, up to like 12, I would say. But it's that last bit of damage where they struggle, because that's usually when mid-range and control starts to stabilize and get rid of a lot of things. Being able to ping your opponent for having this on the battlefield, or if this or another giant or whatever is in your graveyard, that is so relevant. 2 damage is a lot to control. And then the fact that they can't gain life, they're like little revitalize, all their little life gain spells. No, I'm getting rid of you no matter what. You have to have the Wrath of God to, close out the game for yourself. So, completely love this card. The fact that it has Foretell as well is a good mana sink, I think, because it's something that you've pointed out to me in pre-production. You want to cast creatures early with Gruul. You want to get that core damage out. But if you do have mana to sink into, pay 2 to Foretell it, and then Foretell it for 4 later, and it comes out cheaper. So, that's Quakebringer. So what do you think about this card?
So I love this card for Gruul, especially. I also love Gruul a lot. I play it quite often. And one of the things that I noticed from the Gruul that I play is that sometimes I'll have Burning Tree, right? And I just don't have that thing that costs 2. I'll have like Questing Beast or some other thing that's like 5 mana like this, right? That I can't use it for. So if I can't use like it on Bone Crusher Giant or one of my other 2-drops that I have, I can use that pip that Burning Tree gives to foretell this thing too and get it out of my hand also, which is awesome because there's a lot of hand hate in Historic. Anyone that's played Historic has been turn 1 Thoughtseed probably about a billion times. I literally played 5 games in a row today where I got Thoughtseed turn 1 before I even cast anything. And so, hey, if they hit this with Thoughtseize, guess what? It still has value to you because it's in the graveyard. And so if you get a giant on the battlefield, and what Gruul's deck doesn't run 4 Bone Crusher Giants, right? So, man, this card's great. It definitely slots into Gruul. The question is, how many slots, right? Because Gruul is good at being early, so I'm thinking maybe 2 at the most of this. I can see an argument for 3, but if you're doing 2, you definitely want the full play set of Bone Crusher Giant. Like, you want to have that giant theme, absolutely. But I completely see this card slotting into Gruul. I think this will push Gruul back into tier 1. I'm definitely going to try to make it so. So let's swing it back to you. What's the next card you chose? All right, so staying with the elves, my next one is Skemfar Avenger. So this is a black elf, actually. It is 1 colorless and a black mana. So it's only 2, which is nice, just like the last card that we had. And whenever another elf or berserker, non-token elf or berserker you control dies, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And it is a 3/1. So I really like this card. I think it's very cool that it's very like black flavorful too, right? Because it's 3/1, so it's a lot of attack, very low defense. It's got the whole thing where you draw a card, but you take 1 life loss for it, which is very like black flavorful, So it reminds me exactly of Midnight Reaper, right? But this is specific to elves or berserkers, which sounds kind of worse in a way, but it's 1 less mana and it's an elf too. So it plays right into the elf deck, right? Because it gets the bonuses and everything that goes into elf tribal. So this thing is just really what elves need. Because one of the most devastating things for an elf player is when you get board wiped. There's almost nothing you can do about it, right? Because it just wipes your hand out. Elves usually just, vomit their entire hand onto the battlefield, and then they just go, I hope I live this turn, right? Please no Wrath of God, right? And then boom, they wrath you, and you're like, all right, well, I lost this one, you know? But if you get hit and you got this guy down, it really makes them, they have to think about it, right? They have to maybe target this with targeted removal. And the downside to this card, like you pointed out to me in pre-production, was that it is whenever another elf or berserker dies. So it does not proc from Skemfar Avenger dying. So that's an unfortunate thing about it. But yeah, I'm super hyped about this card. I really like it. What do you think, Paul?
I think this fits. They've obviously been trying to make Golgari elves a thing, and I think this is a definite right in the step direction, like a step in the right direction. Getting mixed up there, but yeah, and the you know what? It is a double-edged sword. Yeah, it needs another non-token elf or berserker to proc and trigger. But what's cool is it's the positive side of that is now it's a target for itself, right?
Yeah.
So, control or mid-range using removal to get rid of that first, as opposed to like an Elvish or like another Lord effect or something like that.
Yeah.
If they're getting rid of like a removal spell to get rid of this, you're okay with that. You're completely fine with that. And also, you don't care about life loss. In order to like fulfill your hand again and just losing life, like elves don't care. I think this fits into like what they're trying to do with Golgari elves. So I dig this card a lot. It's really cool for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because if you have like Elvish Archdruid on the field, right, where he's a anthem and he gives you, he taps and gives you mana, right, and then you have this guy on the field too. The like Teferi avatar player is going to be like, like the rope is going down to the very end. He's going to be like, well, if I kill that, then That's the downside. Is your turns is going to take forever because your opponent is going to sit there and
their
just
big brain is going to explode.
Yeah, exactly. But they're elves and I don't work.
I'm supposed to just get rid of the good thing. Well, this is good too.
all I have is Wrath of God. Yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot to this card. I just love it. I think it's the hero that elves need, not the one they deserve,
Dig it, dude.
Yeah.
All right, so for my card, so as I stated, I typically play a lot of competitive best of 3, and trying to think of that, I'm trying to think of things that, there is a lot of really cool cards, and there's cards that I would really love to see, but I'm trying to think logically what will actually have an impact in Historic. And I think this card is going to fit that bill very well. And I'm talking about Faceless Haven, the Snowland. Now, it has tap, add colorless. And that's all it does, right? No. There's more to it. So 3 snow, tap, or not even tap. It's just an ability. 3 snow. Faithless Haven becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn. It's still land. Now, if you're trying to go for like creature type tribal with like the artifact or something like that, I can see that second ability being useful. But the key word here is that I think this is going to slot in great for control. The problem with control is they usually dirtle around or wait extremely late to get like a good beater, like Torrential Gearhulk or some kind of flyer, and then try to get the 20 down to 0. Typical old school control, though, has cards like this, where now they've wiped the board, now they can start swinging in turn 4, turn 5, and start getting that damage down and put some real serious pressure on aggro and mid-range. And I think this card fits that bill perfectly. It reminds me of old school like Mutavault, the fact that it's vigilance and you can still tap it and do your like control-y, kind of spells. Another cool thing is that control has a lot of utility lands, so they don't mind using snow permanents, one of which are the new snow duels, right? So control can utilize that very well, and it can slot in. They don't mind about lands coming in tapped and such, as long as it has a purpose, and I think this purpose fits that very well. So, Faceless Haven, what do you think, Hosh?
Well, this one does not come in tapped, which is a good thing about it, right? The snow dual lands do come in tap, but this one doesn't. So I think this card is very good, and I like this is one of the things that I really like about Magic, and one of the things that I hate about Ugin is just like a whatever. He just does everything, right? This one's very well tuned, right? Because it's a snow land. So it's a snow permanent, right? So it makes snow mana. And then you have to pay snow mana to do this. So this does not slot into the colorless deck. The colorless like Ugin deck can't utilize this, even though it's a colorless card, because they don't run snow permanents, right? Unless they're running 4 of these, I guess. But that just wouldn't make sense. I like the fact that it has vigilance. It's a 4/3. So it, like you said, this is very good in control, and I think it's also good in tribal decks as well. Like elves could utilize this, right? If they're running like snowlands, and then we've seen some cards that have anti-snowland properties in them too. So I feel like they've done a pretty good job of regulating this set as far as the snow stuff has gone, because snow is like, it's one of those things where if you're just looking at this and you're like, well, why wouldn't I run snowlands, right? There's a downside to them, definitely, and I think they've added a couple things in there, and I like this because it's one of the strongest lands I've seen for the amount of mana that you pay to make it a creature. It's very cool. I mean, it's a land, so you get negative style points for picking this as your card. It's like talking about your tires on your car, but
look at the tread.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I hate that lands in general just have utilities to them. I think that's one of the problems with Magic is just the whole mana system, obviously. I like the whole like dual modal land thing. I think if they would have started off doing that in the beginning, that would have been great. But this is pretty cool too. I like it.
Yeah, I think this is just what control needs. So that way they're not roping, they're not dirtling around. This gives them a chance to close out the game. So
they'll do that anyways.
Let's turn it back. I mean, they're still gonna do it, but hopefully they swing with this at least.
Yeah, hopefully.
Let's swing it back to you. What's your next card?
Yeah, dear God, just end the game, please. All right,
yeah.
So
I'm losing my mind. Just do it.
Yeah, so this is my next card is Harald. Is it Harald? Harald. Sorry, Harald. That does sound better. King,
if anyone out there is offended,
sorry. I don't speak Elvish. I don't know. So Harald, King of Skemfar. So this is another elf. So I know. But this one specifically I'm picking because of Historic Brawl, actually. And because I don't think he's actually really great in the normal deck. He's maybe a one-off. Okay, so he is a Golgari elf. He is one colorless, a black and a green. So he's a 3-drop. He's a legendary creature, elf warrior, and he is uncommon, which is nice. He has menace, and he has when Harald, King of Skemfar, enters the battlefield. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an elf, warrior, or Tivar card, that's a planeswalker, the Elvish planeswalker card from among them, and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So he is also a 3/2. So his stats are not crazy. He's menace, he's 3/2. He lets you look 5 deep. 5 is a pretty good amount. You should be able to hit an elf or warrior or planeswalker. I like that he hits the Elvish planeswalker at least with this. But his stats aren't crazy. He's a 3-drop for a 3/2, which is pretty bad already. I think we can agree, especially considering he's a multicolor mana. He's legendary, so you can't have multiple of him, which is kind of bad. He has menace, which is nice, and then he basically gets you another elf. But it's also a gamble. He doesn't search your whole library, which is kind of unfortunate. You think the king would be able to at least look a little bit deeper than 5 cards. you know, but the whole reason that I picked him was not because of just him. It's because he is legendary and he's Golgari and he's an elf. And there is no other legendary Golgari elf, I think, that is really good for Historic Brawl right now. That's going to bring all these other Golgari elves in together. I think he's great as a commander because he's a low mana cost, right? He grabs you another elf. He might grab you the Planeswalker out of there. And so, that's the main reason I picked him. What do you think, Paula?
I think you have a pattern going on here. You start off with green, then black, now it's Golgari elves. Yeah, I think I know the theme that you're going with.
Methodical.
Yeah. Historic Brawl, this is where it slots in. Regular Historic, this is not going to be a thing. Its ETB effect is really cool, but it's only really cool for Historic Brawl. Being able to cast it where elves can generate a lot of mana, having this as your commander, and just getting that ETB whenever you need it as like a source of card draw, completely relevant. The fact that it searches up Elf, Warrior, or Tyvar, the Planeswalker, that's really cool. Dig it. I mean, it has some kind of pseudo protection in the form of Menace. If that's relevant, but I definitely see this as a commander and just getting the ETB. So, dig it for Historic Brawl, not so much in Historic.
Yeah, maybe one off, but
maybe, yeah. All right.
That's it.
So, I'm going with a pretty crazy enchantment that I saw. In Search of Greatness, double green. For an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control without paying its mana cost. If you don't, scry 1. So, this can be crazy, but it's completely dependent on having things in your hand, right? If you're playing a creature deck, I would assume you have things in your hand, or maybe like playing some form of card draw, so probably like big green or something like that. But what you can do is something I noticed is I think this is going to fit into Adventures. So Adventures utilizing the Great Henge. Okay, so bear with me here. I don't know the exact full pattern, but if you cast the Adventure side, the creature side of what's it called? Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, a Lovestruck Beast.
Yeah. So if you cast the 1/1 side, right, its CMC is actually 0. So then if you have an Elvish Mystic or some kind of one mana drop, now you start getting that cycle going. So you start getting the 1s and then into the 2s, into the 3s. And then actually very quickly, I think by turn 3, turn 4, once you're able to get Lovestruck Beast out, because it's only 3 converted mana cost, then you can start getting the Great Henge out because of its power, right? And then now you're utilizing and generating an insane amount of mana. And I mean, if you just got big beaters in your hand, this thing can get out of control very quickly. And, if you don't have anything in your hand, you're scrying. So that's also good. So it has a good ability for its negative side, right? Scrying is always good, digging deeper. So, completely dig this card. I really think this card can be utilized and be broken in a lot of ways. Is it going to be tier 1? I don't know. But I really think we're going to see a lot of this card being utilized in a silly, fun way. So, what do you think about this card?
I really like this card a lot, actually. And it does something that I usually hate in Magic, where it's cheating mana. Basically, right? It's letting you cast stuff for free, which is usually what number one cards that you see that usually get banned are cards that cheat mana, right? Like Fires of Invention and all that kind of stuff, right? They cheat mana, so they get rid of those because they just are able to be abused so badly. This one is doing it in a weird way where it's kind of like Birthing Pod, where it has to be 1 CMC above whatever permanent you had. So thinking about this, it's right. The token doesn't matter, actually. If you have this on the field, it won't look at the token. It looks at the highest permanent spell that you have. So it actually counts this. So once this hits the battlefield, the next thing that you'll be able to cast has to be 3, right? Because it counts itself.
Well, no, it doesn't, because it says among other permanents.
Oh, does it? Where's it say?
Yeah.
Okay, at the beginning of Upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with converted mana cost equal to among. Oh, okay, other permanents. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so that is interesting then. But I mean, this slots perfectly, I think, into green. Right, into mono green, I think is going to be able to utilize this the best, because mono green has a very wide array of creatures. Right, it has, like, Gruul is a little bit more to the low end, I feel like, for the most part, where mono green goes from like 1 all the way up to like 6, 7, like 8 drops, right? The Great Henge, right? All of that. So I think mono green is actually going to be able to utilize this the most. And then the great part is, like, it has scry if you aren't able to abuse this thing, which is just crazy. It's like, hey, you couldn't abuse me. Find something that'll abuse me, right?
Yeah, definitely, like mono green stompy for sure.
It's great. You know what I get the feeling of looking at this is Search for Escanta. This feels a lot like Green's Search for Escanta, and I really like it. I think it's cool, and I don't think it's crazy broken. I think it's a good card, which is nice.
Agreed. And if we can see some other stuff reach tier 1, I am completely down if mono green stompy is trying to do that. So so that's In Search of Greatness. Let's turn it back over to Hoshi. What's your next card?
All right, my next card is Fynn, the Fang Bearer. I stumbled on Fynn because when you look at this dude he doesn't look like a Fynn, right? Maybe it's just like Adventure Time or something that's throwing me off, where that guy's name is Fynn, I think. But this dude looks like Yarvald or something, like, or some crazy, like, it is like a big buff, like Viking dude with a giant axe and a shield and stuff. Like, he doesn't look like a Fynn to me. No offense to any Finns out there. I'm just saying that, like, that name doesn't invoke, like, oh, this is a giant dude to me.
The thick boy that this guy is.
yeah, he's a big dude. Fynn, the Fang Bearer. This card is amazing. So first of all, it's a 2-drop. It's a colorless and a green. It's a legendary creature, human warrior, and he has Death Touch. And then here we go. This is where it gets nutty. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. So this is insane. This is so crazy. So he's a 1/3. Okay, so his stats are decent already, right? A 1/3 with Death Touch for 2 is pretty good. But then the fact that he just makes this whole Death Touch tribal, like, insane, absolutely insane. So if anyone doesn't know how poison works, poison is a mechanic where if you get it, it's a counter that gets put on you as a player, right? So Solemnity would stop poison. Because you have to get counters on your actual self. All right, so a player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. Okay. Now, normally the way that poison works is its damage is dealt with poison counters instead, right? So poison is dealt, like, if they were to deal 5 damage to you, they would deal 5 poison counters, right? Instead of damage. You wouldn't actually take any damage. You would just get poison counters. But with this guy, he's saying whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, so you're actually dealing the damage to the player. So you are hitting them and dealing damage to them, where poison usually prevents the damage from being done and puts counters on instead. So you're dealing damage and you're putting 2 poison counters on. Now the difference here is normally when you have poison, you put that many counters on. This is just saying if you're a Death Toucher and you hit them, they get 2 poison counters. So regardless if it's 7 damage or whatever, it's only 2 poison counters per permanent that hits them. And it has to be combat damage. So that snake that causes the ping whenever a poison guy attacks, that ping doesn't count towards this either. Or that would be like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, This is nuts, and I think it's really good because I normally I don't know if I hate poison. I hate poison in Commander, okay? Because I feel like poison was made back when there was no Commander, so there was no like starting with 40 life or 25 life like we have in Brawl and stuff. It was made for like half the amount of life, right? 20 life you start with, you die if you have 10 poison counters. But then in Commander, it's completely broken because, you have 40 life. And if you hit somebody with 10 poison counters, they dead. That's it. Game over. Yeah. So I feel like it's
giant
a mechanic.
Giant growth, GG.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it was a mechanic that wasn't made for Commander and it gets abused in Commander. And I think it should be 20 in Commander, just like Commander damage. But I'm a minority, I guess, in that. But anyways, what do you think about this, Paul?
Yeah. Death Touch Tribal. Like, get some trample in there, GG. I'm either killing you with the 20 life you have, or I'm killing you with the 10 poison counters I'm giving you. Like this just screams like creature tribal, death touch, trample. Once again, going back to mono green Stompy, this is something they need to close out the game. And this is specifically if you wanted to go death touch tribal, but definitely make sure you have trample because you want to get that combat damage through. Because even if it goes through, you get 2 poison counters. So that way you're trying to win on 2 fronts, whether it's getting the 20 down to 0 or getting the 10 poison counters. So yeah, completely love this card. This card's going to be broken. We're going to see a lot of this. Absolutely. Like, without a doubt, we're going to see this card.
Yeah, I love that it's uncommon, and I immediately thought of it as a commander for Historic Brawl. The thing that I think of, though, unfortunately, in normal Brawl, which is garbage anyways, it's not going to be a thing because I don't think there's enough, because this is a mono green creature, right? So in Brawl, you can only run mono green. So unfortunately, you're missing out on Golgari, which I think Death Touch Tribal mainly is Golgari, right? You're losing out on a ton of black cards in Historic Brawl, which sucks because, black is the main color that has Death Touch. But there are a lot of green cards that do have Death Touch as well, and there's a pretty good wealth of them in Historic that are out there. So I still think that you can make a pretty decent Historic Brawl commander with this guy. I mean, Questing Beast, there's a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? There's a lot. There's a lot still in there. Yeah, so I love this guy. This is my one where I'm like, it's going to be fringy, but I still think it's super cool. This is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah.
I'm going to use this for sure. Try to do something with it. Like, I just want poison to happen, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's in Arena.
Yeah, so cool. I'm loving Kaldheim, and to end it off before we go into combats. So once again, not as spicy as Hoshi's cards, but once again, I play best of 3. I'm trying to predict how the meta is going to go. It's really hard to predict how you sideboard when the meta is not even there yet. But judging how things have been going in Historic, a lot of graveyard strategies, a lot of like recursion with Rakdos and Jund Sacrifice. Obviously, there's Uro and Kroxa, things like, coming from the graveyard and stuff like that. So the card I chose is Weathered Runestone. It's an artifact that costs 2 colorless, and it's uncommon. And it states, non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. I absolutely love this card. It's a great hate card. It's going to be really good for the sideboard. I think it's an auto-include for sideboard, especially when you're playing, graveyard strategies and just stopping Uro altogether. And another thing that I like about it is, people who play things from the top of their libraries. So, goblins, I'm talking about you. Conspicuous Snoop, of course. So any kind of like shenanigans that goes with that, where you're trying to get card draw and be more efficient by going off the top of your library as opposed to your hand. Yeah, no, we're not doing that either. So this is forcing you to play fair Magic. And I absolutely love it. So if you're playing a fair strategy, this is a fair and great card that I think you need to include. Definitely get 4 copies of this. It's only uncommon. And definitely be prepared to have it into your sideboard. So, Hoshi, what do you think about this card?
I think one thing that you didn't mention that's great about it is unlike Grafdigger's Cage, which is out there, which is very close to this card, that this it stops everything from coming back from the graveyard and from the library, where if you were running Grafdigger's Cage before, like in the colorless deck, right, they can run Grafdigger's Cage and they could still use Mystic Forge, because Mystic Forge pulls whatever, right, artifacts, and Grafdigger's Cage stops creatures specifically from coming off at the top of the library. And this is just everything. This just hits everything. So this shuts down Mystic Forge as well, which Grafdigger's Cage does not. But other than that, yeah, it's great. I mean, it's two mana, so it's a little worse than Grafdigger's Cage in that respect, but it's also uncommon. So, you know,
yeah,
you can craft this right away. No guilt.
Yeah, definitely get them. And with that, that is our main phase. So we're going to go into a combat. So typically for combat, we bring up a controversial topic and we usually debate about it. Lately, we've been doing a lot of like round table, but we kind of want to fit the theme of Kaldheim. And we think what best in combat is something that we want to see in actual combat. And that is the gods. That is the big theme here in Kaldheim. And I am super down with the gods. In the past, we have seen Theros and Amonkhet stick with the theme, being like Roman kind of Greek and then into like Egyptian. Now we're in like Scandinavian kind of like Norse mythology. So I'm completely digging it. Now, at face value, you might think, these gods are not as powerful as the Theros gods or even like some of the Amonkhet gods. But what's cool about them is their actual abilities, like what they can do, and that they flip as well as you cast them. So we're going to talk about a god of our choice, and I'm going to turn it over to Hoshi first, and he's going to talk about what god he thinks is going to have a big impact in Historic. So take it away.
All right, so my god that I think is going to be like the strongest in Historic is... there's a lot. This was a hard choice to make. There's a lot of really good ones. But is Turgrid, god of Fright, or Turgrid? I keep wanting to say turd. Turgrid. Turgrid, god of Fright. And which is a weird thing to say because it's like a hot ginger chick. So most people would be like, what, Fright? But I have dated a redhead before and she threw a coffee cup at me. So I definitely feel Fright when I when I look at her. She threw it hard. Anyway, so she is a 5-drop dual modal card like all these gods are. She is 3 colorless and 2 black mana, legendary creature god. She has Menace. She is a 4/5, which is decent. But whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Yikes. So that is just an absolutely insane ability, I think, because this lands, first of all, like Fabled Passage or whatever. Guess what? You get Fabled Passage if they crack it while this thing's on the battlefield. You get in if you make them sacrifice or discard stuff, which guess what black can do very easily is those two things. You are just stealing all of their stuff for free. So it's cheating mana, which I think is one of the most broken things in Magic, right? It's such a tempo swing. You're making them sack a creature and then you are taking that creature from them, right? It's like stealing. It's like that thief card that got banned, but it even works with discard, so it's crazy. And then on the other side is like all these gods, they have like another side where it's like whatever like instrument they have, like their weapon or something like this. And she has a lantern, which is I don't know if that's very frightful. Fear my lantern. But anyways,
I'm Green Lantern.
Yeah, no, my ring. So Turgrid's Lantern. This is 3 colorless and a black. It's a legendary artifact, and you can tap it, and target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. All right, so it gives them, a chance. They can either sacrifice, something besides land. So that is the exact same mechanic as what's the black X spell that you can do? Hellfire. What is that called?
Torment's Hellfire. Or
yeah, Torment of Hellfire. Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same thing as that, right? But one. It's like one of Torment of Hellfire, right? But it has another ability, which is 3 and a black, and you can untap Turgrid's Lantern, which means if you have infinite mana, this kills your opponent, right? You just keep going bing, 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 bing until they die, right? So, or if you have a ton of mana, you can kill somebody easily just with this artifact. So I think both sides of this card are crazy. And this side also feeds the other side, which we have been seeing with a lot of these gods. But I think this one does it perfectly, right? Like it just feeds into whatever is fueling her to like grab stuff from your opponent. So I think this card is the most powerful one that I've chosen for this combat.
Yeah, no, I love it. It punishes people who are playing discard and, sacrifice like kind of strategies and rewards you for doing the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see this in mono black control for sure, without a doubt. And what's really cool about this god specifically is, it's legendary, but because of its other side, because of it being so useful, you want multiple copies of this, because if you have this out with the god side out as well, like GG. I mean, with
your lantern,
you got her and her lantern, and you're just making them discard stuff, making them sacrifice, and then you're getting nothing but benefit from that. You're enhancing your board and making them lose life and lose all their things. Yeah, I absolutely love this card. It is really powerful, and I definitely think we're going to see it.
Oh yeah. What do you got? What do you got?
The god I chose. As we stated, these are all dual molded cards, and the god that I chose is Esika, God of the Tree. It is 1 colorless, 2 green for a 1/4 legendary creature god, and has vigilance. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Other legendary creatures you control have vigilance, and they can tap, add 1 mana of any color. Pretty cool. The ability is not insanely broken, but really powerful. But it's the flip side that is really making me feel juicy. So Wooburg.
Ew, gross.
Nice and frothy. Wooburg, so that is white, blue, black, red, and green for the Prismatic Bridge, a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is exactly what Apollo wants. This is what Big Daddy wants, baby. Just get all the big dumb things in there. Get all the crazy planeswalkers you can. 5 color, good stuff. This is great. I absolutely love this. What I really think is cool about this is usually you see things like, Super Friends with like planeswalkers only, but this rewards you for legendary creatures or just creatures in general. So you just want like just the craziest stuff, right?
Yeah.
At the worst, they're tapping for any kind of color and cast more big things. But yeah, I completely love this card. I think it's going to be completely broken. And I don't think it's going to be like tier 1 over the top, but I definitely think we're going to see this for sure. Definitely in the early stages, at least when Kaldheim releases. Hoshi, what do you think about this god?
Scott, it's amazing, man. First of all, the art just reminds me of living in California and seeing a bunch of hippies in Santa Barbara. So I feel like she is on her way to Burning Man right now. She's just taking so many tabs of acid, and she is seeing all the colors in the universe just coming at her.
Yeah, she is tripping out.
She's tripping hard. But so she is. So she's got vigilance, which is like I don't know. I guess that's fine with her. It seems pretty useless on her because she's a 1/4, but I do love her 4 toughness stat. You don't see that in a lot of mana rocks, really, which is basically what she is. She's a mana rock, but she also makes all other legendaries mana rocks as well, which is really cool. I like the legendary tribal thing, and so she's amazing for that. Her casting cost is a little rough though for being in Wooburg with her having 2 green. So that's the only downside really that I'm seeing with this part of the card. And then the other part of the card is insane. Right? The Wooburg enchantment, which Wooburg means white, blue, black, red, green for those of you that maybe have never heard that before. Yeah, so that means it's all 5 colors. It's the Voltron, as I like to call it, right? Of colors. With my powers combined, I am Captain Planet. So that's what you have to get out to be able to get this enchantment. And the thing that I really like is this one is, as we stated before, as we believe with the dual modals, if you're running this as your commander, this counts as a Wooburg commander. So you can run all colors of mana under this commander because it's a legendary creature. So there are not a lot of Wooburg commanders out there right now for Historic Brawl. And I think this is just a great addition to them in there. I like both sides of this thing. I think it's a very good commander at the very least. I'm not sure where it's going to fit in the normal historic meta, but I see this as being a constant commander that you see in the historic brawl queue whenever that happens.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway here, and I hope you all agree out there, is that Kaldheim is doing a lot of good things, and I think it's going in the right direction. There's a lot of new archetypes that can come forth. There's archetypes that have been kind of struggling a little bit. A lot of these cards that we have talked about can strengthen them up. And obviously these gods are super unique. They're something that we've never seen before. So whether they're fringe or they actually become like meta staples, that is yet to be seen. But I'm completely excited for that. So that is our combat, and that is our Kaldheim spoilers this week. So let us know in the comments below, what you guys think? What card do you think is going to make the biggest impact in Historic? There's plenty out there, and I'm sure we missed some. So, let us know. And if you haven't, please give us a sub. Click that bell notification so we can stay updated on all of our videos when they post every week. And if you're listening on wherever you get your podcast, thank you so much. Give us a follow. And be sure to check us out at the Mana Rant or the Mana Dorks on YouTube. So, moving on, we're going to go into our main phase 2. Normally, that's the horseshit card game, and, Drunken is selling himself on the streets, so...
Yeah, he's whoring out.
We're not going to play, but we are going to do something kind of funny. Oh.
Actually, I have...
Oh, you have something.
I have the horseshit card game prepared. This is a Mana Dorks, man. We can't
okay.
On Mana Rant, we can't skip the horseshit card game. So I am going to take the reins from Drunken this week, and I'm going to run the horseshit card game. So this is the horseshit card game surprise attack.
Yikes. I was not prepared for this.
Exactly. This is great. So the horseshit card game, how this works is we have 4 cards. 3 of them are real, and 1 of them is horseshit. All right. And now it's up for this drunken idiot to figure out which one of these cards is horseshit. All right, now we usually follow a theme with the horseshit card game, and this week it is Kaldheim. And more specifically with Kaldheim, I'm giving you an extra chance here, Apollo, because I know you need this. It's elves.
Yeah.
It's elves of Kaldheim. Yes, it is only elves of Kaldheim, okay? All right. Are you ready for this? Have you mentally and physically prepared yourself? Okay, here we go.
No, but yeah, let's do it.
All right, your first card is Grizzled Outrider. It is a common, and it is 4 colorless and 1 green. It's an elf warrior, and it is a 5/5.
Okay.
All right. Next is Jaspera Sentinel. All right. It is a common. It is 1 colorless and a green. It has reach. It also has tap, an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color, and it is a 1/2. Yeah. All right. Next is Skemfar Berserker. It is a common at 1 colorless and a black. It's an elf berserker, and it has boast. 1 colorless, lose 1 life, and draw 1 card. And it is a 1/2.
All right.
Okay, and then last we have Elder Fang Disciple. It is an elf cleric. It is a common, and it is 1 colorless and a black. When Elf Fang Disciple enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and it is a 1/1. So 2 green elves and 2 black elves. All common.
All right. I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong as I do every week.
Ooh, maybe.
So to speed this up, I'm going to go with the last one. I think you said it was Elder Fang Disciple.
Elder Fang Disciple, the elf cleric that ETBs and you discard a card. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Well, Michael Apollo, this week, episode 25 of Mana Rant, you failed, you fucking idiot.
yeah, of course.
You lose.
Was it the one that starts with a J, a Jaseko or something like that? Was it that one?
Jaspar Sentinel. No, it was not. The horseshit card.
Cool.
The horseshit card was Skemfar Berserker, the elf berserker with boast, where you lose 1 life and you draw 1 card. That one I made up. That one was bullshit. The other 3, Grizzled Outrider, Jaspar Sentinel, and Elder Fang Disciple, were all real cards in Kaldheim, all common elves that are coming to the set, man. Woo!
Cool, dude. I mean, we could have just not done this, and I could have had a W this week, but, let's give me another L.
I couldn't let it happen, man. We got to have the card game, We got to have it. It's so fun. It's so fun watching you lose.
Oh, God. Well, that is our main phase 2, the horseshit card game. Let us know in the comments below. Did you get the card right, or were you wrong like I am every single week for 25 episodes? Let us know in the comments below. And, that is our horseshit card game. And now we're going to skip end step because this episode's getting a little long. We want to make sure you guys get to go in whatever you got going on in the day. But end step is usually where we talk about stuff outside of Magic the Gathering, but it's usually the same thing every week,
Nerd stuff.
Adulting, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go into our cleanup and discards. Cleanup is social media promo. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube's, all at the Mana Dorks or Mana Rant. They're all searchable terms. You can follow our individual Instagrams at Michael Butler Bro, that's BROH, Super Houston for Hoshi over there, and then Drunken Dork at Drunken Dork on Instagram. And be sure to follow our actual Mana Dorks Instagram because we post funny memes like, shit bronze players say and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. And with that, we're going to go into our discard, and that's where we finish wherever we've been drinking. So
a little bit left.
Oh, not much for you. A little much for me.
This is pure liquor, though, buddy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There you go.
So all of you out there, thanks for tuning in. Cheers. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Ooh. Goodness gracious.
Oh, man. Oh, that was spicy. That was spicy.
Too much.
That was fucking spicy.